is a Bramble Jam podcast.
Welcome to Girls Gone Hallmark, a Hallmark review podcast. I'm Megan, and I'm a longtime Hallmark fan.
I'm Wendy. I'm a former Hallmark hater.
Today is our weekly listener mailbag episode for the Way Home. This is our 7th listener mailbag episode. If you want to get in on the listener mailbag game, please email us, girlsgonehallmark@gmail.com, with your thoughts, questions, theories. You can also message us on Instagram, or a lot of people comment on YouTube. And I would just like to say that if you are listening to the podcast on YouTube, I mean, that's fine. You do you. I don't think it's like the most user-friendly way to listen to podcasts. So this podcast, if you're a YouTube listener, I mean, come find us on Spotify, find us on Apple Podcasts, find us in a podcast listening app, which I do think might be an easier way to listen. But if YouTube works for you, keep on keeping on.
That's right. Megan always says, don't go back too far, though, because we used to be YouTubers. So you see a lot of videos of us.
Yeah, I got a little embarrassed, honestly. One of our listeners was like, oh, stumbled on the YouTube channel. And while the last several hundred episodes are just podcast episodes, and some of them are like the interviews or some video episodes, prior to that, there's about 400 YouTube videos that you and I created together in our first iteration.
No shame in our game.
I mean, we hustle. We were putting out multiple episodes a week.
Yeah.
Do you remember we would do videos and we'd have to do our nails because we were constantly like showing items in the videos? And
the amount of makeup I wore, like
we would record multiple videos in a day, and we would record at my house, and Wendy would bring like a stack of shirts and we'd change our clothes, and then sometimes change our hairstyle or change it like an earring or a lip color so that they weren't back to back. Oh my gosh. Those were the days.
That feels like yesterday, but then also when I think about it, I was like, my daughter was in like kindergarten.
Yeah, we started that when my almost 15-year-old daughter started preschool, and we would record in like the 2.5-hour window I had at home between drop off and pickup.
Yeah.
And then I would hustle out the door with like fake eyelashes or whatever crazy thing we had done.
That's funny. We're on Instagram at Girls Gone Hallmark. We also have a Facebook group if you want to talk about The Way Home or any of the other Hallmark movies we review. You can chat with us or other like-minded, wonderful people. Also, if I could plug our Port Haven 1974 sweatshirt, which I am wearing right now. I love it so very much.
Do you?
It's my favorite. Is it Gildan? Is that the brand?
I don't remember, but
You see?
It is Gildan.
I love a Gildan sweatshirt.
Me too. It's the same as our Girls Gone Hallmark sweatshirt, and I love that sweatshirt a lot. And so I made sure to use the same blanks. I might actually switch over our Port Haven 1999 like to those.
Yeah. It's a comfy sweatshirt.
It's a comfy sweatshirt. I think I might wear mine tomorrow.
And I love the colors on it. I just love it so very much. I will leave a link in our show notes for this episode, but you can also find them on, I don't know what, our Etsy.
It's Long Story Short Shop. I know, guys. I'm sorry. Just follow the link.
We create these things years and years ago under a different name we were using. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's not just Hallmark stuff. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But let's jump into some questions. We have our first piece of feedback comes from Jerry on YouTube, who says, I'm confused. If Jacob returned to 2024 from 1814, how would he know that Teen Colton told Elijah to plant potatoes and rye in 1816? How soon before 1816 would Elijah have needed to know this information about what to plant in the 1816 growing season? So I want to clarify this. My interpretation of Jacob saying that he arrived to tell them to plant potatoes and rye was that it happened like around the time Kat went back to find Jacob, like in that 1814 window sometime before Jacob returned back home. And who knows how long it takes, but perhaps they planted those crops and they continued to harvest them for the next couple of years until the 1816 blackout of sorts. That's my understanding, is like they planned it in advance knowing that they were going to need it. Not that Jacob was there at some time between 1814 and 1816.
I co-sign that. Yeah,
It is confusing. There's no doubt this show has gotten confusing.
definitely. Definitely. Sometimes these are those kind of things I'm like, just go with it, Jerry. Jerry, just go with it.
Sometimes you have to.
Sometimes you have to. The next comment comes in from YouTube. The chess piece is going to be a key to open the clock from Elliot's wall.
Interesting theory.
Very interesting. Also, didn't even clock it, no pun. I didn't realize the chess piece was the bishop.
Yeah.
And Sam's last name is Bishop. I don't know if there's any connection there, but
We did get several messages about that. I don't know anything about chess.
you have a chessboard sitting in your house.
No, ma'am. We have a backgammon board sitting in our house.
Why did I always think it was chess on that table?
Backgammon, my husband's Armenian. It's a very big game in the Armenian culture. My son dominates at backgammon. But yeah, I don't know anything about chess.
Me neither.
But a number of people did clock that, and it should mean something.
It will.
Another YouTube comment says, Casey says last year was the worst of their life. We presume they mean from their time. I wonder what has happened in Casey's time that made it so horrible for them to feel it necessary to time travel to the past. I have got to tell you, based on a number of the comments that come in, I am very worried that either Alice or Kat has died at some point in Casey's future. I'm very concerned about that.
The way my stomach just dropped.
I know. I'm sorry. But I can't stop thinking about it.
Oh, is that why Casey's
So happy to see Kat and Alice. And Casey looks at Alice in season 2. That's why I'm afraid it's Alice. Like, Kat makes a little more sense because she's older, right? And in 20 years, like maybe Kat's in their 60s, and that's still very young, but it's easier to get behind like your grandmother passing away than your mom. I'm that just the way Casey looks at Alice in season 2
is the way that Kat looks at her dad.
Yeah, or almost like maybe they didn't even get to meet them, or they were very young when their mom passed. The speculation is wild, but that is my concern.
I don't like that. But, I mean, it would make for compelling TV, but I love Alice so much. I don't want Alice to die, but Alice will die someday. So, Nola writes, OMG, I laughed so hard at Thomas rushing into the room all macho man with his gun drawn. I thought, what the F, bud? Calm yourself. He does have a need to be the hero. I did love the conversation between Jacob and Thomas on the beach. He did have some good insights.
Yeah, I liked that conversation too.
Oh, yeah, it was a great conversation.
Thomas did a really nice job of balancing like Jacob's hurt with the reality of Kat's situation. He really diffused a lot of that. I love Thomas. Sailor Solitaire says, I think Alice should try to be more tactful when talking to others, especially Dell, regarding Evelyn. With Dell's upbringing, it would be way out of line for Alice to talk to her grandmother the way she did. Alice was talking to Dell like she was some sort of homewrecker, but Dell didn't do anything wrong.
In defense of Alice, Alice is a teenager. I don't know if you learned tact.
For sure. Teenagers are by nature very self-centered, and Alice is processing all of this in real time. And I think what Alice is trying to do is bring Dell in on what she's experiencing. But I think Alice has learned her lesson. Like Dell doesn't want to know. And I think Alice will probably do her best to keep Dell out of it for the most part. I think she's learned what she can and can't say to Dell.
Well, yeah. And now to Max as well. I mean, I know she's not talking about time traveling with Max, but like just the mention of his grandmother.
There is a thought on Max coming in pretty soon. Brenda commented the chess piece is a bishop, as in Sam Bishop, and there's a reply from Nate and Heather. It says, it is odd that someone took the bishop and not another piece. If you're holding onto a chess piece, wouldn't it be the king, queen, or something cool like a knight? I looked at the bishop in chess, and it says, in chess, a bishop can move diagonally in any direction as far as it wants and capture enemy pieces. Maybe Sam or Casey are a bishop that can go in time in any direction. Sam could also be covering up his name by using the last name Bishop. They seem tied together somehow. I have to admit that when someone suggested that the bishop is in relation to Sam Bishop, I kind of imagined Sam having to like create this alter ego, and he was like, and like sees a bishop in like the corner of his eye. It's giving Princess Consuelo Banana Hammock from Friends is all I could say.
Oh,
or Calvin Klein from Back to the Future.
That's funny. I was on Reddit last night and somebody had a picture and they're like, this is how you come up with your Reddit memes. And it was like a picture of a little container of chicken salad 504. So you see, yes, I get it. That's funny. Elijah seems very calm, as if he knows more about what happens with the Landry family. I wonder if Jacob remembers Elliot from 1999 and if Jacob was told how Alice started the whole thing when she jumped into the pond for the first time.
Jacob seemed to remember Elliot when he came back.
Yeah,
and he like commented like he was like, oh, like, finally hey, you two are together.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. This writer in her goes on to say, Max doesn't dress or act like kids from this generation. I wonder how close Max and Evelyn really were, since Lewis states that they weren't around Port Haven much. So the other day I was thinking about how I had commented on Max's clothes and how I was like, oh, he's giving like Gossip Girl. You know what he was really giving to me was like Alfonso Ribeiro on
Carlton.
Carlton, that's his name. Yes, Carlton on Fresh Prince.
Yeah, is Max just like a little stuffy and uptight, or is he from another time?
Have we seen him and his dad together?
No.
In a scene? We have not, right?
We have not. All right, more from YouTube regarding the chess piece. When Sam and Del were speaking at the house, Del touches the chess set on the table, which I took as foreshadowing for later when Alice finds the chess piece, that it came from the Landry set. It's not really a question of where Casey is from, but when. And what was so bad in their time that they ran away from home to the past. It makes me wonder if someone from the present timeline died in Casey's time and they wanted to go back in time to spend more time with them. I also keep wondering what happened to Jasper after Coils became the point. Did he eventually go back to the States? He's not still in Port Haven, and Del should at least know what happened to him. As far as the whole future traveling goes, the only person I'm curious to see go forward is Alice to Casey's time. If Thomas went forward, how would Jasper exist? There is a follow-up comment that says, I think Jasper is the one sending the suspicious letters. He was recording at Coils back in 74 and may have caught Kat and Alice talking about Colton and time travel. Fast forward, Kat doing a press release in 2024 about Jacob's return. Jasper would still be alive in 2025 and may have caught that. He would remember Kat, especially if he has that video recording.
Interesting, because Jasper would likely be alive. He was older than Del and at the time, right? So he could still be alive in 2025. Do we think Jasper is a time traveler? I mean, anything can happen, but...
Yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Nope. My gut says no, but I don't know. I mean, Jasper's an interesting dude. Wayne asks, who was Del saying goodbye to at the Landry farm? Colton was outside, and the only other person in there could be Fern. And how would Del know Fern or even anyone else there?
Well, what about Colton's mom?
Yeah, Colton's mom is still around, right? I mean, Fern references her. We never see Colton's mom, and we obviously never see Del meet even Fern, but the idea is that an entire summer has passed and Del and Colton have fallen in love over the course of a couple months, right? So it would stand to reason that she's met his family.
Yeah, she may have had a meal over there or something and just wanted to say goodbye. I don't think it's completely outlandish. Hey, so this is a random thought, but I was rewatching season 1, episode 7, and something sounded super familiar. So when Nick and Alice sneak away from the New Year's Eve party, Nick gives Alice a shark tooth necklace and says, "It's because you caught me," which isn't what Which isn't that what Teen Dell says to Colton when she draws the fish on the guitar? Yes, right? Mm-hmm. So what if this shows this similarity between their relationship? How the love is so real, but one of them using the pond and missing a bunch of time with each other. Let me read that last one. How the love is so real, but one of them is using the pond and missing a bunch of time with each other.
So like in Nick and Alice's case, like Alice is traveling via the pond, and obviously we believe Colton is traveling via the pond. And so in both of those cases, they're suggesting like the person traveling via the pond is missing out on the relationship with the other person. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to come right back to read your emails. Our first email, welcome back, is from Mary, who says the second person is young 1974 Colton. This did come in before episode 7 aired. It came in on Friday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon before we had, I wouldn't say we have 100% confirmation that it's Colton in the photo, but we have somewhat confirmation that Colton existed in the 1800s, which would stand to reason that it was Colton and Jacob potentially in that sketch. But Mary called it. I mean, she stated it definitively. The second person is young 1974 Colton. Francisco. You know, Francisco, every time I see your name in our email, I think of Buddy the Elf saying, Francisco, that's fun to say. Francisco says, Wendy and Megan, first, I was listening. Thanks for the shout out. Makes the podcast that much more enjoyable for me. Kat is grading. A lot happened here. Francisco says, okay, Nick is a dork now. The 1999 jokes were stupid. He might as well have said home prices. Am I right? And to that, I say, Francisco, in that episode, I quoted Nick saying, wish we were back in 1999. Am I right? Because that's what Nick said. It wasn't me clowning or mocking him. Those were his exact words. Also, he's giving off creep vibes right now. He wants to hang out with a teenager. What the heck? It's weird, and he's verging on being someone on Law & Order SVU or a Lifetime movie. Does his fiance even exist, or is this like the invisible Canadian girlfriend, which is ironic since they're in Canada? Reader's note, I agree. Nick's giving creepy.
Yeah, it's too much for me.
Regarding Casey, their first run-in excuses were obviously too perfect, and Kat buys it, of course. Now, the end was one of the best cliffhangers I've seen. Some seem kind of anticlimactic, though this one we're given some semblance of an answer that Alice might be right or onto something at least. I'm going to be so mad if the opening of the episode has
Casey coming up out of the water.
Yes, right in front of Alice.
Yeah, like, I thought it would work. It doesn't work. Yeah. Ugh.
Now, Sam said a couple things here that caught me. When he was talking to Dell about Jacob going back, he said something to the effect of, what is he thinking? And it kind of gave the impression he knew more than he let on. Also, that idea seemed to be furthered by how he spoke to Dell about Jacob's return being more complicated. I just feel he knows more, and I'm not one of those people who thinks every character is a time traveler like Noah. I saw someone ask if Rita, Brady, Monica, and Danny had more to them, and they're just supporting characters that pop up now and then. Rita is obviously addicted to true crime, but nothing more. It seems Cyrus has given Susanna her own she shed of sorts in the attic, one that anyone can access, obviously. Thomas seems kind of pathetic now.
Dare you?
He sees Jacob and asks, is Catherine here? And then seems to hang around the pond all the time. He's gone from dashing and heroic to a lovelorn puppy dog. It's pathetic. There, I said it. So sue me, Tomcat fans.
Uh-oh, they're going to come for you.
Speaking of Cat, that karaoke night was a little bit rough as opposed to what Nick said didn't fix anything. As a Fleetwood Mac fan, there are worse songs they could have sung, like Go Your Own Way. She really doesn't have a right to be mad at Elliot for a moment he obviously regrets when she's kissed Thomas and went back and kissed him again. The fact she friend-zoned Elliot beforehand was even worse. I'm rooting for them, so I think she should, when she comes back, admit it and give the excuse, we were on a break, and move on from there. Max seemed at first to be a rich kid who was a jerk, but was interesting to learn he was close to Evelyn as well. I think Colton's plan to ask Dell to marry was sweet but silly, and Evelyn couldn't get Dell out fast enough. And finally, Francisco is hoping we might get a playlist from season 3, but we haven't gotten a ton of music in recent episodes. Like, season 1 was real strong with the 90s music. It was great.
Yeah, and this season started out with a lot of music, but kind of, we've spent so much time back in the 1800s too in the last couple of episodes, so
yeah,
we're not playing, Stevie Wonder or whatever. I don't know why I picked Stevie Wonder, but
The oldest person you could think of.
I was going to say Fleetwood Mac, but then I was like, well, we just had Fleetwood Mac. I mean, like the Doobie Brothers then maybe? I don't know.
Frankie Valli. Okay.
Jeez. Eric writes, hi, ladies, love the show. So why is Nick back? ? And why have we never seen his significant other, Claire? My crazy theory is that Claire is actually a 40-something Alice who time traveled from the future to settle down with Nick and live under a pseudonym. Yikes, is all I have to say about that. This would explain why Nick is so chill with all the time travel business. Is he, though? I mean, I think he's very cute.
Can I watch?
So gross. I read this theory to my wife just now, and she pointed out that the main character, an Outlander, is also named Claire, possibly a sneaky homage. Homage?
I think it's homage, but yeah.
That's it. A sneaky homage to another time traveling character. Also, my thought on all the Nixon stuff is that they're going to introduce an alternate reality where Nixon doesn't resign.
No, please. No.
I'm not crazy about this idea since it would make the show even more complicated, but it would open the possibility of reality where Colton never died. Eric in Iowa. Eric, hey, I just recently visited the great state of Iowa. Please write in and tell me where you live. I would love to talk to you about it some more. Megan's looking at me like I'm crazy.
I feel like you need more backstory here. It's because your child is potentially considering going to college there.
There it is.
Not because you're a Nick level creeper.
Yes.
When he's just trying to get the intel on the state of Iowa.
On the state of Iowa. That's right. Here I have a question. This is something I cannot shake.
Yeah.
Clarice Susanna.
Yeah.
I can't help but shake that maybe Susanna is somewhat like Vic's mom as well. Like that's why we never saw her face in Rick's funeral.
Yeah.
Or she could be this mystery Claire.
Yeah.
And when Claire finally comes to town and she's going to meet Kat and they're going to be like, what?
I don't think Susanna is Vic and Rick's mom. I don't know why. You know, one of the criticisms of this season is that there's too much happening.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I still really love this show, but there are so many balls in the air. And like I have a little bit of a headache thinking about it right now.
I'm sorry.
Is Claire Susanna? I mean, my eyes can't even focus on anything in front of me because I'm trying to think about all the implications there.
Right.
Our next email comes from Paula, who says, another great recap, and thank you for your nice words. I enjoy your podcast, but not just to disagree with you. My only real disagreement on this show, the Tomcat, Cat Santa, Elliot storyline. I repeat what I said. We are seeing things very differently. Tom is decidedly not a nice guy. He cares about getting somewhere with Cat. Let's take this apart in a minute. He's nice to Jacob because he's Kat's sister, yet he thinks he can sneak into the pond after him and get some pond mojo. He couldn't just ask Jacob if they could go in together.
Pond mojo is my favorite. Can we put that on a shirt?
Just like mojo. Some residual time travel essence. Then he's stalking the pond waiting for Kat and forces a kiss on her. Reverse the situation and have Elliot do what Tom did. You'd be upset. Okay, look, I need to take this apart. Does Tom have motives to get with Kat? Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. They don't come across as sinister to me.
I don't think so either.
And is he stalking the banks of the pond waiting for Kat? I mean, what else is he supposed to do? I could picture Elliot doing it. And if the roles were reversed and Elliot was like, I didn't find the kiss unwelcome. And if Elliot was, yeah, you're right. We see it differently. She says, Kat is there for Susanna. I'm sure it'll never work out, but it's nice to think about. If she's so hot for Tom, why mention Elliot to him? Frankly, I'm tired of the will they, won't they trope that's been used on every single sitcom since Cheers. And Nick is the stupid comic relief friend. Is Nick the Joey Tribbiani of this cast?
He might be, but I feel the collective isn't down for Nick.
Yeah.
He doesn't
have a redemption arc.
No.
As of now, neither Tom nor Susanna can time travel, so talk of anyone but Elliot is moot. Kat and Susanna would be cool. Maybe that would help Kat get a grip. I'm guessing the parolee white-collar criminal is from New York and a descendant of Tom. There's something sketchy about Sam as far as we know. He's the only non-time traveling newcomer ever in Port Haven.
Oh, Sandy writes, ladies, I missed the list of questions you are keeping from this week's episode. Yes, we did not include those.
She's correct.
I love how you hold them to task. Please bring it back. You are keeping all the questions straight. Thank you, Sandy. Thanks, Sandy.
Yeah, noted. We will bring it back in this week's episode.
Yeah, I can't remember it. We don't do it in the mailbag. We do it in the regular.
Yeah, after the recap, we talk about what questions we still have.
That's right.
And if any were answered. Amy writes,
look at Amy's last name. We're not going to say it here on air, but look at her last name.
I know, it is a real coincidence considering what we're talking about.
Uh-huh.
It's not Landry. Amy says, hello, I've just discovered your podcast and am really enjoying it. I have a few thoughts that may have been discussed, but here goes. When Jasper Coyle told Kat about Thomas's happy ending, the assumption was that this was Thomas's future. What if it's actually Thomas's past? What if he's already been married and had a son? I assume it would be a son in order to carry his name down to Jasper. Maybe his wife died in childbirth and Thomas was so crushed that he drank himself into oblivion. Maybe the son was taken by his wife's parents and raised in New York. He seems awfully lonely and always talking about the importance of family to Jacob and Kat. Last season, he mentioned that he had lost 2 brothers. It was so heartbreaking to see him jump in the water after Jacob. It seems like he's just craving family.
Time out. Was our white-collar crime guy from New York?
And that's my understanding, according to Paula's email. Once again, can't keep all the details correct.
Okay, go on.
I also think the clock not working might be the reason that time travel to the future isn't working at present.
Agree.
Hopefully someday we can see Susanna and Thomas and older Colton in the future. I think Elijah will have to stay in the past because he has a son and a grandson there. Yeah, that could be... I like that because if future time travel is possible, we're going to need like a little bit of heartbreak here. We can't just like bring all of these people forward.
Right.
One other thing, it's always funny that Kat is never working, but I do remember last season they had one line about how the newspaper has been changed from a daily to a weekly paper. I guess that makes it a little more plausible that she's never at work. I agree. What could Port Haven possibly need in a daily newspaper anyway? But my guess is it's not even a weekly anymore. People are like, we get a paper this week? Doesn't look like it. Check the Port Haven Instagram account, see what's up.
Oh my gosh. Our final email is from Francis. They write, hello, I think the Nixon references are definitely shown for a reason, possibly a connection to why Dell's life changes at that time too. I'm thinking maybe Dell's father was involved in illegal stuff with Nixon and arrested or fled the country. This could also have a connection to present day anonymous letters she's receiving and Sam's trip to Toronto.
Yeah, maybe. There was a lot of feedback about Nixon. I mean, some feedback is like it centers the show in time. Like it was a yes, this is 1974. This happened. And we talked about like, do teenagers care? It's one of those things that probably would have been like, we interrupt Top 40 for this very special news broadcast. It was probably preempting a lot. We didn't have XM radio. You had to deal with what was on. The thing about this show is that it's hard to tell what's important.
Yeah.
So when you see something like that 3 times, is it simply centering us in time, which they did in the 1999 episodes with music a lot, with clothes, with some pop culture references. I think the further we get out from that time, they need to use perhaps bigger swings, but maybe it's bigger.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
I'm the shrugging emoji right now. I don't know.
You're at a complete loss.
I really am. 3 episodes to go.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Girls Gone Hallmark, a Bramble Jam podcast. If you love this podcast, friends, we love your 5-star ratings and reviews left in the podcast player of your choice. But quite frankly, Apple Podcast is the very best place to leave them if you are an iPhone user. And we'll be back next time. Thank you so much and goodbye.
Bye.
All right, friends, before we go, just a quick heads up. You're about to hear some ads. These little gems help us keep the show running and the Hallmark love flowing. So do with that info what you will. Grab a snack, hit the skip button, or maybe, just maybe, listen in and discover your new favorite product. Bye.